Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks ever so much for coming back after lunch. So usually I get on stage and I talk about paid media and anything that's related to PPC and paid social. And over the past maybe year and a half or so, I've started playing around with Google Data Studio a lot. And it has completely changed the way that I manage client campaigns, the way that I report to clients, and most of all, it saved me literally days worth of time every single month. So what I want to do today is actually share with you some of the things and the features that we can use within Data Studio across all of the different marketing channels that you can then take away, have a play with the platform if you're not already, and try and put that into practice for your businesses or your clients that you're working with. So the reason I started looking at this was I actually surveyed 150 people to find out how long they spend reporting for clients or senior management on a monthly basis. And surprisingly, most people, so 35% of that, said 3+ days a month, which is mental. You think how much time you can take and reinvest that and actually get some more valuable insights out of the time that you're using. Like, that's crazy. And then I thought, well, what are they actually doing when it comes to reporting? What platforms are they using? So I put another survey out, and I actually got 450 people's responses on this one. And out of the 4 platforms here that have been listed, 34% are using Data Studio, 34% are using Excel, 22% Google Sheets, and then 10% other, which also got me thinking. So 34% using Data Studio is great, but what about the other sort of 60-odd% of people that may not be using any form of automation within their reporting? So I want to show you over the next 25 to 30 minutes or so, 25, it's only going to be on time, how you can actually use this platform to really automate your reporting and save yourself a stack load of time each month. So the tools that I'm going to talk about are Google Data Studio, as I've said. Now, Data Studio is the easiest way to describe it is it's a visual representation of data. It allows you to pull in lots of different data sources and actually be able to see the insights and look at what that data is telling you within a really visually appealing dashboard. So back in, I think, June 2016, Data Studio was launched. It was a really small US beta that they actually tested it with. And then at that time, you could only actually create 5 reports in Data Studio, which was really limiting, especially if you are an agency that's working with multiple brands. So in February 2017, that was actually removed. So it gave us the ability, whilst it was still in beta, to roll it out across lots of different websites and brands that we're working with. And then late September last year, they let that out of beta, and now it's available freely to anybody that wants to use it. There's over 500 different official data sources that you can use to pull in to Data Studio, which is amazing. And it allows us to really connect our data points. It allows us to look at the different channels that we're using within our marketing campaigns and really understand what's working and what's not. The different connectors that we've got available to us. So Google have released their own. So we've got a lot of free connectors in here that just basically plug into all of the Google platforms that we use for whether it's Google Analytics, Google Search Console, YouTube. There's all these different platforms that Google have got that they're allowing us to pull in data for free from. And then we've also got some community ones, some fun ones in here that people have actually built and open sourced to the industry. They're also free. But then we also have some partner connections, and I think this is where the power really comes from. So there's a platform out here called SuperMetrics. So if you're not using SuperMetrics and you're using Data Studio, I can highly recommend this one. What this does is it allows you to pull in data from all these other data sources that aren't owned by Google. So here's just a few of the ones that they actually give us access to. Now, some of the main ones that I use are pulling in insights from my Facebook ads. Like, the Facebook interface is really clunky, and trying to actually get some valuable insights out of that can be really time-consuming. SuperMetrics takes that away and allows you to put that data straight into Data Studio and visualize it. Your MailChimp campaigns, how are your email campaigns performing? Google My Business, this is fantastic for anybody that's got a local business or multiple local businesses, and you want to actually see how the local business listings are performing for you. So there's a load of different things that we can use. It's a paid-for platform, but they also have a free version of that as well. So looking at the different channels then. So as a marketer, we use lots of different channels, whether it's organic SEO, whether it's PPC, whether it's email. And this mix is getting more and more with the addition of new advertising platforms that are coming out, new social networks. So having an ability to actually pull all this data into one place is super beneficial. And actually giving us the power to unlock those insights, but actually see the data within a really visually appealing dashboard. For me personally, I can look at spreadsheet after spreadsheet, but until I actually see the data graphed or in a way that actually presents it in a format that shows me, well, this doesn't look quite right, I get a bit stuck just looking at numbers. So this really helps. So this is an example of something that we can do here. So you can create yourself an entire reporting suite that pulls in data for all the different sources. I click on each of these, and it takes you through to the individual reporting for that particular platform. And this is just one example. You can also leave monthly commentary, so you can have a file that's updated on a regular basis. So you can list all the things that you're doing for a client or a brand, keep track of that, all in one central place. And then this nice dashboard here, so you can actually see, how's my performance? It's a bit like a live ticker. It updates as regular as Google Analytics updates. It updates as regular as Google Ads updates. So you can actually see what your website is doing, where the performance is, on a day-by-day basis, week by week, and then comparing how that's actually doing. So that's across all the different channels, right? So let's just have a look at a few examples of what we can do for organic. So we can pull in data from Google Search Console. And actually, I think this now goes back 90 days, I think. No, 6 months, actually. They've released something to say the data can now go back 6 months into Google Data Studio. And you can pull in all these insights, create some really cool visually appealing graphs, and actually start to see that data all in one place. What you can also do is add filters on. So you can say, right, well, I've got all my Google Search Console data coming in, brand, non-brand. I know Google Analytics took the ability to see the keyword traffic away from us from an SEO perspective. But now that we've got this, or some of the data back within Search Console, let's use this to actually understand how our brand versus non-brand campaigns from an organic perspective is performing. Spoke earlier about Google My Business. So in this example here, we can see how the Google My Business listing is performing on the left-hand side. And then we can also see over here the star ratings that we're getting for our business. And we can see the reviews that are coming in, and we can see whether a business is actually responding to those reviews. You can put filters on and say, well, I just want to see my star ratings that are 1 or 2 or 3. And I want to make sure that the managers that are managing those particular businesses are looking after that data, and they're actually responding to people as the kind of negative reviews come into place. Site speed's another one. So within this example, pulling in data from Google Analytics, we can actually see, well, what section of the site is driving the site speed to slow down? Is there a particular channel that's making the site speed slow down? Start to understand that data and actually see that information more visually. And then the final example I want to give from an organics perspective is, like, we all have to set targets, right? Whether that's for organic, whether it's for paid. But in this example here, you can plug a Google Sheet into the system and say, right, these are the targets that I'm looking to achieve over the next calendar year. And then you can plot alongside that in real time whether you're actually on target. So it just creates a really good visual representation of how you're actually performing within your organic search campaigns. Content's next. So content, we can actually now, one of the things that they released a little while back was giving us the ability to embed a URL. So if you've created a really cool piece of content, you can have the content there so the client or your manager can browse through the piece of content and actually track the performance on the right-hand side here. So we can actually see how things are performing. Blog post performance. Like, how many times do you write a blog post and you think, well, how's that actually performing? What's that doing for the business? Is it driving the traffic through? And is that traffic actually leading into sales or leads or whatever it is that you want it to achieve? Having this dashboard here for blog content can really help with that. And then the final example in content is MailChimp. So with using the import from MailChimp directly into Data Studio, you can start to see that data. So again, not having to go back over to another third-party platform and see how that's performing, because it's all sat there in one place for you. Paid search, again, works with that. So in this example, this is the Auction Insights report. So if you work in paid media, or organic, this is going to be really, really useful for you. So Auction Insights allows you to understand the competitors or the other advertisers that you're up against in the landscape that you're advertising in. So you can see you would be able to see if I hadn't blurred it out, but you'd be able to see the domains on the left there, and then what you can see over here is the months, and you can see your overlap. So it will tell you what sort of percentage you're overlapping with that particular brand for any given campaign that you're running, which is really, really valuable information. And then you can graph that as well. So in here, we can see that the competitor that's in grey, back in April, they weren't competing with us as often. But when we flash forward to June, that overlap rate has got higher. And what I actually saw off the back of this was my conversions went down for this particular campaign. Because I'm like, well, this advertiser's not running used to not run as much, and now it is. The conversion rate's gone down. Conversions have also gone down. So it's just a really good way of visually seeing who you're up against and how you fare against that. Return on ad spend calculators. So this can be plugged in nice and easy, so you can see your return on ad spend year on year and your revenue year on year. You can break it down and say, well, let's have a graph for search and a graph for shopping. Which one's working out of the two? Other thing that we can do is create some interactive maps, or any of the tables and the graphs that we put into Data Studio can be created as interactive ones. So you can click on any of the little blobs in the map there, and on the actual table of data, that will update for you. So you'll be able to see, okay, well, we're getting quite a few number of sales down in this particular area here. What's that translate in terms of revenue? Where do we need to push our budget to? Next up, we've got an MCC hookup. So if you're an agency or if you're a brand where you're using multiple Google Ads accounts, you can create yourself a dashboard like this. So you can have all of your clients or brands down the left here, and then you've got all your performance in there. So you can also break those down and say, well, how are my lead gen campaigns performing, or how are my e-commerce campaigns performing? But it just gives you a really quick way of quickly going down through each of the businesses that you're marketing to see how the campaigns are performing month on month, rather than having to go into Google Ads directly and do it all one by one. From a paid social standpoint, so using the ability of using something like SuperMetrics to pull the data in, we can report on things like the campaign objectives. So if I'm running a reach campaign and I've been running a conversion-led campaign and a links click campaign on Facebook, which ones are actually driving the best return for me? Which one's getting the conversions and the transactions that I need? And then also having your performance broken down by campaign level, so that if you're looking and thinking, well, that one's not working as well as it was previously, you can then start to dig deeper rather than having to go into Facebook and look for that insight yourself. You can graph things like time of day. So in here, we've got a heat map that tells us the transactions that we're getting into this business, what day of week they're coming in, and what hour of the day, so that we can uplift our bids and we can uplift our budget in the times of day that are actually performing best for us. Audience breakdown, again, really visually appealing, so we can see the age and gender breakdown, broken down by, we can see that by conversions, we can see it by traffic, bounce rate, all of this data that we can pull in to actually see what we should be focusing our attention on. If the age bracket of 18 to 30 isn't working for you, right, this shows you that, and you can switch that off. You can make that decision to say, well, it's not working. Let's stop wasting budget on an age demographic that's just not performing for us and reinvest that budget where it should be. And then the final example in paid social and social as a whole, let's look and see, well, where are we actually getting our traffic from? So if we're seeing that we're getting a load of traffic coming in for, say, Pinterest, and we're not doing any advertising on Pinterest, and we're not really focusing on Pinterest as a platform, that might help you make a more informed decision to say, well, there's an audience there. We're getting some traffic already, so what would that do if we were to push that a little bit harder and actually invest some time in that platform? What could we actually get off the back of that? From a display point of view, we can also pull in data there as well. So we can create these things like a dashboard, pulling in the display and video 360 platform. Let's see what our display campaigns are doing. And then let's take that down a little bit further. As a placement, we can see the placements that we're advertising on from the display campaigns. Which ones are generating positive conversions for us? Where is the revenue coming in from? Are we seeing that the display campaigns are running and there's a site there you think, well, that could be a really great piece to partner with? Could we get some content added on that that site. And this is about making teams work closer together and giving them the insights from all the different channels to make informed decisions over what's working and where we should reinvest some budget. You can also see the demographic insights from display as well. So let's have a look and say, well, where are we getting our conversion from? Male, female? What genders are actually generating the business? What age brackets are generating the business from display? Reinvest budget in the areas where it actually is working. So the next thing, now that we've looked at the different channels, I just want to touch a little bit on conversion windows. And I think this is one of the massive benefits of using a platform like Data Studio. Because if you're running Facebook ads, your conversion window, so a conversion window is basically the time from when somebody clicks on an ad to the time that they convert. A lot of businesses don't convert people on the first visit. They take time to come back. So a conversion window on Facebook basically means it will drop a pixel and say, this person's been on the website, and if they come back within a 28-day window and convert, regardless of what channel they've come back on, Facebook will then attribute the conversion back to the ad that was clicked. So we've got 28 days on Facebook. Now, Google give us 90 days. So the look-back window is 90 days. So if you're not using a platform like Data Studio to do your reporting, the problem that you've got is if you're running Google ads or Facebook ad campaigns and you pull off your reports on the first working day of the month, and you're like, well, these are my conversion numbers. They're not looking very great for the previous month. I guarantee you, if you look back in 2 weeks' time, those conversion numbers will have gone up for that same period. And it's because of the conversion window. So again, that is a 90-day window. So if you wanted your conversion data to be accurate when you're pulling out manual reporting, every single time you do it, you're going to have to manually go back a 90-day window to see what's working and what's not, whereas Data Studio will omit that completely because it allows you to automatically update and look at what's actually working. When you set up Data Studio, it asks you for a default conversion window, so you can specify that, and then you can have the ability to actually adjust that within the reporting as well. Now, bearing that in mind, it's really important to think, well, what platforms are actually converting? And if you've got different agencies or teams running your different advertising platforms for you, so you might have a team that runs your paid social, a team that runs Google Ads, a team that runs display, they'll all be reporting to you in their own formats, and they'll all be reporting to you off the back of the platform's performance. This is where it causes a problem. So when you look at this data here, we can see all the different channels that we're running ads on, and we can look and see what metrics are working well. So from the first glance, it looks like search ads and Instagram are actually performing best in terms of orders, revenue, average order value, and then from an Instagram perspective, it's showing the return on ad spend's better from Instagram. However, are these channels really the best performing? And this is where the data starts to get interesting, because if we try and total up the total number of transactions that we've had, we try and add those up. I'm not going to get you to try and do that in your heads right now, but when you do add all of those up, it comes to 7,334 orders. But that's not right. If we look again, we look at those 4 different platforms, it's still going to total up to that number. But it's because the individual reporting platforms or individual advertising platforms are taking credit for any conversion that has touched that advertising channel. So when you actually look at how many conversions you've had as a result of the channels overall, when you look at the website, there's only 4,758 there. That is a massive drop. So if you are using individual teams and you're all reported separately, one platform might look like it's working, and the other one might not. But when you actually look at the data as a whole, that's when you start to get the picture. So, as I say, skewing the data will be causing you lots of issues when it comes to the reporting. The reason that this is happening is because a lot of those channels are using last click. They want to take credit for something that's actually helped that platform. They want you to invest more money in that platform. So just relying on that isn't the right way of doing it. So I want to end just with a few resources that I find really useful. The first one is the featured template. So if you haven't used Google Data Studio before and you just want to have a play with the platform, these featured templates that have been open source so you can go into the platform and use them, all you have to do is hook up one of the advertising platforms or analytics platforms that you're using, and a template that's already been created will self-populate itself with your own data. There's a load of other marketing templates that have also been created as well that Google have put together. So for all the different Google advertising platforms, we can pull these templates in and actually see oh, that's actually really good. And it just gives you the ability, it gives you a starting point of a platform that you think, oh, that's really cool, and actually have a play with that data and see what you can actually do yourself. And then, as this community is such a lovely industry, people also create their own templates and share them with everybody else. So it just gives you some insight and think, well, how are other people using the platform? Like I get so intrigued by how people are putting together reports and inspiration from what other people are doing. It's really important to look at these and think, wow, that could work really well for my data, and my boss would really resonate with how that's put together. There's a really cool resource and template guide that was put together for a guy on Twitter called Helpful Lee. And this resource keeps getting updated on a daily basis. So as and when people put connectors out there, as and when people put a template out or write a decent blog post, this will continuously be updated. So if you're trying to keep your knowledge up to date on all the new things that the platform's bringing out, this is a really good place to start. And then these are some free icons that were created by some guys at Data Runs Deep. So what they do is you can actually take those icons and paste them into your Google Data Studio reports and actually have something that helps you to visually represent a certain bit of data. So they're quite cool as well. So a few final points that I want you to remember today and take away with you today. Number one is I want you to all start to get a Data Studio report set up for just one website. So if you're not using it at all, one website. It's a super easy platform to use and navigate yourself around. Get it set up for one website and actually spend some time working around the platform. Look at what it can actually do for you. You'll be continuously finding new things. You'll be like, oh, when I first started using this, I stayed up until about 2 o'clock in the morning because it's quite addictive starting to look at the data in this way. It's probably me being a bit of a geek. And then put yourself a template together. So the way that it works and the way that you can get the best use out of it is to create something, one template that you're super happy with, that you can then emulate and roll out across all the different businesses that you're reporting for. Plug the data in, and you'll find that you keep adapting it. But once you've got that template there, it's nice and super easy to actually evolve it. Every time you create a dashboard, you get a really helpful, friendly URL that you can send on to clients or management. You can lock it down so they can't edit it. And then as and when they go to that URL, all of the data is populated and it updates in real time. And the most important thing, I think, have a think about how long you've spent over the years reporting. You tot up all that time, and it's quite a scary figure. So once you actually start reporting automation and you start to look at your data in a much more easily and more friendly way, take that time and reinvest it into something a lot more valuable. Thank you very much.